Like a canary in a coal mine, low-cost carrier Southwest Airlines CEO Gary Kelly announced recently in a video to employees that for the first time in aviation history, Southwest Airlines may have to consider furloughs if things don't turn around soon. It's Friday, April 24th. My name's Juan Brown. You're watching the Blanco Lirio channel, and it's time for an update. Last week, 4.4 million more Americans applied for unemployment benefits, bringing the total up to 27 million folks unemployed in America today. The death toll has reached 50,000 deaths due to coronavirus here in the United States, right on track for the IHME data projection of about 67,000 deaths by 1 August. 64% of the entire global airline fleet remains grounded. That's 17,000 jets on the ground as of today. Added to the list of global airlines on the verge of bankruptcy, in addition to the airlines we discussed last Wednesday, Avianca Airlines out of Colombia. Emirates Airlines is extending its grounding of aircraft all the way out to 1 July of this year. Air New Zealand is cutting more super long-haul flights and grounding their Boeing 777s until April of 2021. Air New Zealand had some spectacular long-haul routes in mind to fly from New Zealand direct all the way to London, 25-hour long flights, which the new 787 was capable of. Over at American Airlines, a brand new 787-800 came off the assembly line at Boeing and went straight to storage, parked in Tornado Alley at Tulsa, Oklahoma. Why is it easier to continue to accept these aircraft off of production rather than stop production? Because there are fines, and that production line is a long line. It takes time to stop that train, and those planes keep on coming, and so they're going to go straight to storage. More and more passenger airlines are converting to cargo flying. American Airlines had a record-breaking 777 cargo flight recently, and there are no more Airbus A380 aircraft flying anywhere in the world. Over at Boeing Aircraft, it was recently announced that the 787 production line will be cut 50% from 14 aircraft per month down to about 7 aircraft per month. There have been 1,500 787 aircraft ordered. 968 of those aircraft have been produced. So a little over 500 aircraft still yet to build of the Boeing 787 model. Those orders are going to the airlines with the worst problems right now, so we'll see how that production line continues. And again, it's easier to just continue producing the aircraft than it is to stop that production and pay the fines for changing your order. 737 MAX production is to resume in May, and we're still awaiting FAA certification of the 737 MAX. The new Boeing 777X flight testing continues. They conducted another test flight recently. 309 of these 777X aircraft are on order, with the first to be delivered to Lufthansa next year. Lufthansa, of course, is one of the airlines in deep financial trouble right now. Right behind Lufthansa as the launch customer for the 777X is Emirates Airlines, which is delaying their grounding of their fleet. The 777X has a capacity, the Dash 9 has a capacity of about 426 passengers. Cathay Pacific wants to modify their order of 777Xs to the 787, which carries about 326 passengers. So a super efficient long-haul carrier flyer, the 787. Back over at Southwest Airlines, Gary Kelly, in his video conference to employees, explains how they have dropped the schedule to 50%, but the passenger traffic has dropped off to nearly zero. It takes a while for airlines to slow their schedule down. It takes an airline 4 months out to build a schedule, and aircrew bid their schedule month to month, so it takes several months to wind down or change a schedule. So Gary admitted that, of course, Southwest Airlines is burning through cash, though they do have a good amount of cash on hand. Plus, they got the government loan, so they're looking okay for the next 4 or 5 months. But if things don't change soon, they may be looking at furloughs, and they very well likely emerge from this as a much smaller airline. So the order of sequence that Gary wants to approach the problem with, he wants to start with, like over at American Airlines, he wants to start with voluntary permanent early retirements, then voluntary leaves of absences, all in an effort to mitigate furloughs, which is his last choice. Then he wants to begin to cut benefits, and then he's going to ask people for cuts in pay before furloughing employees. Now, pilots' unions are probably going to resist this, as they have learned from other pilots' unions and other past histories, that if you take a cut, and the union usually argues the line, full pay to the last day. Why? Because it's very easy for a company to get a cut in pay from its employees. All these pilot jobs anyways are union jobs, so it's union contracts, and you've got to negotiate these changes unless you use force majeure, which we may see before all this is over. That's another story for another time. And so it's very easy for the company to negotiate a cut in pay, but it's also very hard to regain that pay in the future. It's very easy for the company in the future to kick the can down the road for years and years without strong snapback provisions in your union contract to regain the pay that you lost during a concessionary or time.
Let's just sit and think about what we've heard.
Let's just leave it at that. That's good enough. So we'll watch that closely over at Southwest and see how that plays out. Meanwhile, let's go inside and check out some real-time data traffic patterns on Flightradar 24. Remember, on Wednesday we discussed the minimum requirements as required by the Department of Transportation CARES Act for minimum service to airports around the country. Let's see what's actually going on around the country today. And you'll see about a 50% drop in flying from before the crisis, yet all those aircraft that are in the air are losing money big time. Nobody has the 75% load factor to even begin to break even. Okay, back in the studio 2B, B for Blanco Lirio. Let's go to the internet view of Flightradar 24 and see what's going on in real time. It's about 12 noon Pacific time here locally. So I've got the filter on to filter out the high altitude traffic. So I'm going from 18,000 to 35,000 feet here on the filter. Looking over the continental United States, here in the upper left, the view shows 350 aircraft flying over the United States. Typically, before all this stuff hit the fan, we would have 5,000 aircraft overhead the United States at a busy time of day like it is now. Globally, with this filter on, I'm showing only 4,600 aircraft flying over the entire globe. Let's turn this filter off and see what happens. Now we got 1,400, let's see how to get rid of that. 1,455 aircraft here over the United States. Still only 4,629 globally. So this, with the filter off, includes all the general aviation aircraft, all the bug smashers that are out there flying right now, everybody below 18,000 feet, and of course airliners on arrival and moving on the ground as well. Now let's look at Sacramento Airport currently. Statistics for that. We've got 152 departures in the last 7 days. So quite a bit more than the minimum recommended by the DOT, but still 50% less than what was happening before the disruption in travel. And these arrivals and departures are going to be winding down here in the future. Now let's go out to Honolulu Airport, an airport that absolutely depends on air travel. And if we look at the visitor statistics for Hawaii, daily passenger count, it's just fallen off a cliff for Hawaii from all around the world. Right down to hardly any on an economy that just vitally depends on air travel. And as soon as you land in Hawaii, you still got the mandatory 14-day quarantine for all arriving passengers. It doesn't have it, darn it. The last 7 days, numbers are down. They're not here, but it's about 50%, less than 50% of what was going on before the crisis. And most of that, as we zoom out, so much of that is probably cargo flying. GTI, who's that? Prime Air, Giant. Who's this guy? There's American Airlines. LA to Honolulu. UPS. Hawaiian Airlines. Southwest, look at that. Southwest is still making their Honolulu runs. DHL. Air New Zealand, Auckland to LA. Well, they got 2 in a row? Look at that. And UPS. In other aviation news, a PC-12 did a crash landing here after 15 minutes after takeoff from DFW. I have no idea what happened here. Engine failure is what they're reporting and what the pilot reported. But check out the video footage here. Good design Pilatus, where the wing of the aircraft separated from the fuselage. And of course, all your fuel is stored in the wing. And the wing is burning safely away from the fuselage. And the pilot and passenger are able to step right off of the aircraft. Of course, he's got nice flat terrain to work with, but it looks like he hit pretty dang hard to rip the wings right off of that PC-12. So no idea what happened here. This is a PT-6 powered aircraft, very reliable aircraft engine. So 15 minutes after departure, he declared an emergency, and the radar track looked like it showed him doing a 360 to get into this spot here. So as always, I'll post a link to my sources, especially this video link to the Gary Kelly interview from Southwest Airlines. Very interesting. Thanks again for your support, especially for your support on Patreon for making all this possible. We'll see you here.